I've so far been hit with an utterly failed DMCA and a Weasley defamation complaint that got a video blocked in the UK. I've made videos encompassing both of those events. And then a few days ago, I got one of those LinkedIn emails that lets you know when people have been searching you up. And surprise, surprise, it's someone from SEGA. I clicked on it and it told me it was specifically SEGA Europe and specifically a lawyer. So there are SEGA lawyers fucking looking me up online. I don't even use that LinkedIn profile and almost never get searched under my real name on that profile, and I don't voluntarily use my full legal name online, and it's not readily available to be found, so someone is digging hard on me, which is fucking creepy. Fuck off, Sega, fucking creeps. Nobody at Creative Assembly has ever done this. Like I said, I almost never get searched under my real name, and it has never led to my LinkedIn profile before, a public LinkedIn that's dormant and that I deliberately don't update. So this is creepy. Fuck off, creeps. Corporate creep fucks. Fuck off.
Let's tear this place apart for weapons. So when they burst through that door, we'll make them wish they never did.
I don't care about living or dying anymore. I just want to send as many of these devils back to hell as I can.
Amen.
And then a few days later, yesterday, I get another defamation complaint. This time it's Canada. So my video, the one about hyenas being sold to Tencent, is now blocked in the UK and blocked in Canada. So someone filled in yet another form for yet another legal jurisdiction which comes with its own set of local laws to comprehend and make appeal to. My video has 50,000 views and only 5% of those are from Canadians. So for the sake of 2,000 views, well, those views already happened, so it's really for the trickle to follow. For the sake of that minuscule trickle of remaining views to come, someone sat filling in an additional legal form with consideration of entirely different legislation to get my video blocked in yet another country, of which the world has hundreds. This is some petty, thin-skinned bullshit. For the sake of an ongoing tiny trickle of potential views that are the tail-end trickle after an initial 2,000, someone filled in an entire legal appeal with YouTube's tools. Absolutely pathetic. I've never been to Canada and have no expectation of being extradited to Canada for defaming someone over a fucking YouTube video. So this is especially petty. This is clearly an attack on me, an attack on my channel to strangle me. It's to damage my channel's algorithm factor and nothing else. Utterly pathetic. I left all doors open in my previous video with regards to who was responsible for these complaints, while having a supposition that an individual person got butthurt at my reporting and impulsively clicked around and submitted that original complaint. But now this is starting to look bigger than that. The persistence of this censoring effort combined with me being corporately creeped on fucking LinkedIn makes me think this could be SEGA. Anyway, that's another anonymous legal complaint filed at my expense, so that's another subject access request I'll be able to submit to try to find out who is doing this for sure. And then I'll think about submitting a subject access request concerning SEGA Europe, because I've done no business with them and I don't want them holding information on me and using it to be over there lurching and creeping in the shadows. Corporate lawyer creeping. The mere thought of that is disgusting. Up until now, I've been focusing on the nitty-gritty of the Hyenas project, but recent events have made me more curious about the role SEGA could have played in all this, and I've started to go through my notes to think about what I could have missed. So to start, I found this. So I asked this source, I'm curious who you would specifically blame for the mess at CA. The Chief Product Officer, Rob, is done, and he was commonly blamed, and rightly so. But is there anyone else that really needs to go or that was particularly negligent in permitting this project to fail so badly? And my source responded with, the blame should largely be placed on SEGA's back. SEGA have been incredibly hands-off and did not check in with CA. This led to the mismanagement of Hyenas and ultimately left SEGA a choice to keep investing in it or cancel it. Either throw more money to get it over the line and then ship it to a saturated market whilst having a very poor marketing drive, or cancel it and cut their losses, saving money. The opportunity cost that comes with that money and a potential reputational hit. Ultimately, they decided to cancel it and incur the one-time loss as they announced in their statements. I expect SEGA to get more involved with CA and intervene more in the upcoming years. And then there's another testimony here from a completely different and new source that came to me after my last video on the original defamation complaint. and they said to me the following: I thought the boss was David Nicholson, who you heard talk in the trailer breakdown video. He visited on big meeting days to talk and was usually flanked by 2 other senior guys. I thought of them as the Top Gear trio, as Nicholson is a big loud guy and the others were like his 2 weaselly little sidekicks. In 2018-19, they were engaged with former game journalist industry experts who would come and see what we'd made, and during the all-hands meeting tell us they were very impressed with the direction and would be telling SEGA the same. We looked at each other like, really? I could tell in 2018 it was probably doomed, as could many others, but it was people's living, so we carried on. Charlie Boucher seemed like a nice guy, but well aware of the state, if unable to say anything for obvious reasons. He'd come from GTA and knew his shit. Some of the others were useless. The Top Gear team in particular. I wondered at the time if it was some kind of scam, i.e. they get the investment from SEGA, pay a few artists to make some crap and steal the rest, but it seems no. They really did spend all that money. You wouldn't think it, seeing what was being made. I'm pretty sure all big decisions about the game direction were my kid likes Fortnite, so let's do that, etc. I am a little sad the game didn't release, as I quite liked the gunplay and wanted to have a go. Overall though, it was a shambles. And while I apparently have SEGA's attention, and while we are talking about defamation, SEGA, did you know that Creative Assembly have a subreddit dedicated to Total War called r/Total War? SEGA, did you know that this forum entails a commercial benefit to Creative Assembly and therefore yourself? SEGA, did you know that Creative Assembly staff have a presence there and have done for years? SEGA, did you know that I've had descriptions from ex-CA staff of how CA staff exert soft power control over the moderators that control what's said on that subreddit, with descriptions of how specific named staff gave those moderators freebies to keep them operating in line with the company's wishes? SEGA, did you know that I've been getting repeatedly lied about with blatantly false claims that are explicitly defamatory and libelous, that I've been getting defamed on there for the past 3 years solid, almost immediately since I began openly critiquing Total War games? What a coincidence. SEGA, did you know that Creative Assembly has a reputation for being humiliatingly, blatantly punitive towards its critics, with more and more YouTubers only recently beginning to admit it after I've spent 3 years pointing it out non-stop?
Creative Assembly, for its longest time, has never been able to handle people that talk against it, that even give constructive criticism or say anything that isn't of the most positive terms, not towards the old games I might add, but specifically their newest releases. First of all, Creative Assembly are famous for having a spotty relationship with YouTubers. If anybody doesn't know, they have a creator partner program that you can join. Pretty much anyone can join their first tier, where you might get some free stuff or code every now and then, but they are very selective of who gets into the version that gets early access, that gets invited to events, so on and so forth. I, as a YouTuber, was invited to the Three Kingdoms event, for example. I went down to the Shard in London, all paid by Creative Assembly. It was great, and I really enjoyed the game. Loads of YouTubers do this, and loads of YouTubers get involved. It is a great thing until you don't do what Creative Assembly says. If you don't talk incredibly positive about their newest titles, they will kick you out in a heartbeat. If you don't play their newest titles enough on your channel, they will kick you out in a heartbeat. It doesn't matter the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views that you've had on past Total War content. If you're not playing the newest and greatest that they have to offer, they will kick you out of their partner program. But not just this. They will also try and censor the things that you try and say. There are many YouTubers, Great Book of Grudges, Pixelated Apollo, Volound, Prince of Macedon, now even Legend of Total War, that have noticed this more and more over the years. Of course, they have all the right to send keys and to let whoever they want into the early screenings of any of their titles. Yet when it comes to flagging or blocking any sort of criticism, Creative Assembly are king.
The feeling here is that they're hostile to a fault. Now, this thing about DMCAs, Legend of Total War, I believe it was on Twitter, but yeah, he called them out for like this not being cool, right? He didn't support DMCAing, you know, obviously against the purpose of what a DMCA takedown is supposed to be for. And then he basically said, yep, I have been blacklisted. They are honestly quite legendary in their willingness to blacklist creators. And I don't mean blacklist people because of something that they've like done that's really bad or something they've said that's super distasteful. I just mean like blacklist because they didn't like the game. They had protracted negative feedback, that sort of thing. As an example, I have been really, really harsh on Blizzard, like fairly regularly, and their community team haven't broken off contact at all, right? They generally just seem to be like, yeah, that's your opinion, you can take it. I know that if I was even approaching like 20% of that with Creative Assembly, I would be on the blacklist, which, I mean, if I tried to get with them, obviously, I would not get into their creator program. Not that I would even want to.
The episode on the forums where CA staff started banning everyone was just a mask off moment, as they themselves even literally admitted to the amazement of everyone. SEGA, did you know that I've had acquaintances of mine that have taken it entirely upon themselves to scroll down through blatant witch hunting threads on that Reddit and just screenshot libels of me that are provided on that forum en masse? SEGA, did you know that I've reported these libels and defamations and specifically observed how the moderators there refused to take reasonable action on those libelous and defamatory comments, blatantly abdicating their main responsibilities as moderators? SEGA, did you know that there exists clear documented evidence of how the moderators there capriciously enforce their own rules, not to mention site rules, at the expense of critics and their reputations? SEGA, did you know that I've had the Reddit site admins themselves respond to my reports when CA-controlled moderators deliberately took no action, thereby acknowledging the harassment, while the much more active and hands-on CA-controlled moderators quite deliberately must have done nothing? SEGA, did you know that when the moderators there do take rare action, it's not to actually punish and thereby deter the harassers and liars leaving all of these libels and defamations, but they take action simply to remove the most blatantly offending comments to protect the posters from consequences from the site admins, who would otherwise immediately issue site bans, letting them live to libel another day and continue to be useful, and by which point the original libel has been extensively read and is now being actively recycled by second-hand reports. SEGA, did you know that this dysfunctional modus operandi is so blatant that random passers-by have observed and commented on it in precise detail? If we want to talk about defamation, let's do it. I've been talking about it for 3 years now, and everyone that's been paying attention knows I have. I've been told repeatedly that you don't even pay attention to $100 million game projects, so I doubt you pay attention to what happens on company-controlled Reddit, or on your official company-controlled Discord server, or on the company-controlled Steam forums, where witch-hunting harassment threads are allowed to go on unchecked and run their full course. Contrast that with threads praising me and encouraging criticism of the games, where they get it first outright deleted, wiped from existence. You'd be forgiven for thinking these threads weren't happening at all. You'll notice that the link to this thread on Google has no destination, returning to the main Steam directory, deleted. And then when people notice this happening and repost the threads to double down, they might not get deleted, they might instead just get locked. You can only make these comparisons if you're quick and use Google's website caching. If you do that, then you see how blatant all this is. Or if the people there that were watching it unfold at the time and participating in the thread can recall it and say exactly what happened, and even better, can actually tell us why it did. And on the subject of the Reddit, the main weapon for harassing critics and chilling criticism with defamation.
Because, like, I would have totally been on his side, too, because I fucking hate the Reddit right now. That Total War Reddit is the bane of my existence. You know? It is constantly attacking me.
Do you honestly think it's a coincidence that these things are allowed to happen? Of course not. It's all deliberate. So yeah, let's get it all out into the open and put our cards on the table then. I've got an entire backlog of videos documenting the defamation as it was happening for 3 years. I've got folders, I've got archives. More recently, I've got other people that are making their own folders and archives because they see exactly what I've always been talking about and they think it's outrageous. Let's roll up our sleeves and get stuck in. All 3 years of it. Let's finally all start talking about defamation. I'm glad we are finally starting to take defamation seriously around here after 3 years.
Let's kill some fucking vampires.
Our main motivation, I think, was not to interfere prevent total untruths and irresponsible things from being said.
Like that the wages are low.
We can, you know,
Minimum wage is low pay. Trying to stop people from saying that in this country to make it illegal speech. But why shouldn't we say things in the UK that people can say in America?
Because you choose to live in a country where maybe you can't say those things. They allow caning people in Shanghai too. That doesn't mean we're going to go cane you.
We made it absolutely clear that we would only consider allowing them to pull out of the case if they apologised to all the people they'd sued in the past who had made similar criticisms to us, and guaranteed not to sue people in the future.
We won't agree not to file suits against other people. We will not discuss our going back and apologizing or paying compensation to anybody not in this.
It's quite serious to say to someone you can't hand out any leaflets full stop.
I don't think you ought to hand out leaflets about McDonald's. I think you've played that card. No, you've done it. You've had your day in the sun. And I'm insisting that any comments you make about McDonald's has to be private.
We wrote them back a letter saying, you know, we would consider that if they agreed not to run any more advertisements about McDonald's, and said, of course, this agreement wouldn't prevent you from privately recommending McDonald's to your friends and neighbours, sort of thing. But they didn't reply to that one.
If you like my work and want to support me, then I have a Patreon page. I try to give out perks, which includes monthly updates and a patron-only Discord. Special thanks to Matteo Olivetti, Nerdington Paints, SJ Mage, Bador Nasser, and Desync was here.